I went to the wrong relative's place and, thinking a handsome stranger was my cousin, socked him a few times. I figured I'd be kicked out on the spot. But the guy's mum warmly insisted I stay for dinner, and even the guy himself said he was my upperclassman and helped clear up the confession wall, misunderstanding. But then I found out he'd moved in next door, and now this rumored boyfriend is standing at my door saying he wants to make it official. On the third day of the Lunar New Year, I barged into the wrong house, grabbed the handsome guy in the entryway by the collar, and gave him a couple of hard thumps. "Auntie, your nephew shot up, huh? He's what, 15 or 16 and already 6'2"? Auntie, 15 or 16? What are you talking about?" The guy lowered his eyes and looked at me coolly. "Who are you?" This was outrageous. My mom had sent me to pay a New Year's call to some distant aunt. Honestly, we hadn't seen each other in 10 years. No one would recognize anyone. I lugged 2 big boxes of cherries over. The door opened, and I beamed, "Happy New Year, Auntie." She lit up. Oh, Happy New Year. Come in, come eat." The whole place smelled amazing, so I floated right in. A door on the right opened, and a handsome guy walked out, still a little sleepy, hands shoved lazily in his pockets. I hooked an elbow around him and cheerfully thumped his back. "Auntie, your nephew shot up, huh? He's what, 15 or 16 and already 6'2"? The guy froze. Auntie froze. My brain so slow it could orbit the earth twice. I noticed nothing and kept chirping. "Where's my little cousin? Why isn't she out yet?" We were thick as thieves as kids. Auntie's fine features cracked inch by inch. "There's only Jason in this house." Case closed, folks. I'd gone to the wrong place. I rubbed my hands and stammered, "I'm really sorry I read the house number wrong." When people get embarrassed, they blurt the truth. I blurted, I should have known no way my mom's side of the family could produce an aunt as drop-dead gorgeous as you." The not-so-pretty aunt's smile deepened. "Sweet talker. What's your name?" A male voice cut in first. "Isabel." The handsome guy's voice was still drowsy, low and sexy. "She's my underclassman." He looked down at me. That face was startlingly good-looking. "I'm Jason, finance." Folks, if you're never even met rumored boyfriend, travels 1,000 miles to show up in your hometown, are you shocked? Or shocked? Or shocked? I swear, praying to heaven and earth is nothing compared to praying to your mum. I have never been so grateful to see my mum's name on my screen. "Belle, I told you to go to your aunt's. Where on earth are you? It's bad enough you disappeared. But you also walked off with my cherries?" Truly mortifying. Staring at Jason's half-smile, I lowered my voice with a stiff face. "Mom, I went to the wrong place. I ended up next door at Building 28. She hung up on me. Clean and simple. I used my mum's rushing me as an excuse and finally escaped. Escorted graciously to the gate by the beautiful aunt. My mother, rarely this affectionate, was standing a few steps away. Joy all over her face, arms already open as she walked toward me. Flattered, I opened mine too. "Wow, we were apart for what, a minute? Since when did we get this cuddly? Awkward." Then I watched her breeze right past me and hug the gorgeous aunt behind me. "You wicked woman. Back to B-City and you don't even tell me? How many years has it been?" Arms linked, the two of them went back inside. The north wind howled. I stood there like a block of wood. A scarf slipped around my neck. A hand ruffled my hair. Jason leaned in slightly, lips quirking. "Girlfriend, come on in." A heaping platter of crimson cherries sat in front of me, stabbing my eyes with guilt. These 2 kids are meant to be college classmates. After a long reunion of chit-chat, the beautiful aunt's gaze swung back to my face. What a coincidence. Her son had been staring at me for half an hour too. I was being skewered by a matched pair of mother and son stares, nice and chilly. My mom looked like Columbus discovering a new world. "This is Jason, right? Got a girlfriend?" Jason's eyes lingered on my face with a meaning that made my heart do acrobatics before he finally spoke. "No, Aunt Anna, The light in my mum's eyes made my stomach sink. Ever since my cousin ran off to Stanford last year with a like-minded wunderkind, the 21-year-old left over yours truly has been stewing in hot oil. The meatballs burned yesterday morning, because I still haven't found a boyfriend. As expected, Mom grabbed Jason. You just moved to B-City and don't know your way around, right? This is Aunt Anna's daughter. Let her show you around. Mum, my other aunt. I tried the soft approach. Your aunt hasn't seen you in 10 years. 1 more year won't kill her. Go. Mum's logic steamrolled me. On the desolate streets of the 3rd day of the new year, only Jason and I, 2 idiots, walked side by side in the cold wind. I didn't want to, but no matter how fast I walked, I couldn't shake him. He'd catch up in a few easy strides while I wore myself out. Panting, I said, "Let's find somewhere to sit." Jason nodded politely. 3 minutes later, we were sitting across from each other in KFC. What can I say on New Year's in B-City? Everyone else believes in holiday, not profit. I traced circles on the table with my ring finger and decided to face the rumor head on. That confession on the school wall wasn't from me. Someone used my name. Jason dipped his chin. I know. And the rumor that I confessed to you first, that wasn't me either. I know. That was me. Good that you... My voice shot up 8 notches. What did you say? Jason lazily stirred his hot cocoa. I said, the news that I was pursuing you first. I put that out there. Since you couldn't explain the confession wall, I figured I'd take the lead. Girls have thinner skin. I stared at him. He added, mine's thicker. When the confession wall thing blew up, I did deny it. But a few days later, someone dug up that the account's IP traced back to our dorm, and 1,000 mouths couldn't wash it clean. The tide turned, and I got roasted for wanting it both ways. Jason was already the campus heartthrob. With me as the perfect target, the keyboard warriors had a field day until the next day, when a rumor started that Jason had chased me first, and it snowballed with people saying he'd confirmed it himself. Suddenly we were a match made in heaven, and the whole farce turned into playful couple drama, snapping out of the memory. I felt my face heat up. Do you know that everyone at T University is saying we're a couple? Jason cut in, perfectly calm. Sorry if that caused you trouble. I shook my head. Not at all. You saved me from the fire. Jason raised a brow, a faint smile tugging at his lips. His eyes were light in color, distant when expressionless, yet full of warmth when he smiled, like amber in sunlight. So, I'm your savior now? His voice lingered lazily at the end, teasing and familiar. I laughed with him. Yeah, and I'll repay the favor tenfold. Jason drawled, his tone half amused. No need. Just don't drag me out wandering in freezing weather again. From what beautiful Aunt Emily had said, they'd lived in F-City, where it was spring all year round. He clearly wasn't used to B-City's biting cold. I couldn't help but laugh. Deal. You've got yourself a friend. Jason laughed too, his long eyes narrowing slightly, that smile of his carrying a trace of mystery. But back then, I was too dense to see anything beyond kind and gentle. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect that while Jason and I were forging a great friendship, my mom and Aunt Emily were forming a perfect alliance. During the rest of the holiday, my dad and Jason's dad were like neglected weeds. My mom and Aunt Emily were inseparable. Even the cowherd and the weaver girl weren't this desperate to meet. Jason and I were dragged along every single day. For a week, we sat side by side on the couch, politely listening to the 2 empresses chat, stood outside fitting rooms waiting for them to emerge so we could clap and compliment them in unison. At mealtime, we sat shoulder to shoulder, forced to taste the homemade delicacies that could rival biochemical weapons. Apart from sleeping, Jason and I practically saw each other every waking moment. Under their relentless polishing, our great friendship evolved into a bond of revolutionary comradeship. One day I finally lost it and pulled my mom aside. I'm begging you, can you and Aunt Emily stop dragging me along? Let this poor bird stretch her wings a little, okay? What bird? You're more like a full-grown rock. My mom rolled her eyes. Look at Jason, has he complained even once? I surrendered, defeated, and turned to Jason. You're way too agreeable. Thanks to you, all the artillery fires aimed at me. Jason really was easy to get along with. Whenever something needed doing, he'd do it. He washed a plate of cherries and brought them to my mum. Aunt Anna, Belle and I are probably in the way while you and my mum catch up. So maybe we should. My mum caught his arm before he could finish. Jason, I've thought of you as half my son since you were still in your mother's belly. Now that I finally see you again, I just can't bear to let you out of my sight. Jason's unfinished sentence died in his throat. He shot me a helpless glance. I sneered inwardly. I came out of her belly like I don't know what she's plotting. Half a son? Please. She's already dreaming of him as her full-fledged son-in-law. Poor Jason, clueless and earnest, completely spun around her little finger. My gaze toward him turned sympathetic. And the more I looked, the better looking he seemed. I popped a cherry into my mouth and silently chanted a calming mantra. When it was time to go back to school, naturally I ended up on the same flight as Jason. I have a habit of passing out cold on planes, and this time was no exception. By the time we landed, I realized my head had been resting on Jason's shoulder, and his sleeve. I straightened up fast. The dark, wet patch on his shoulder made my cheeks burn. Jason, as always, was gracious. He tugged his backpack strap up to cover it and said smoothly, "Let's go." In the taxi, he gave the driver an address. Langyuan. Thanks. I froze. Had my mum already leaked all our family info to her hand-picked future son-in-law? There was a demon in my dorm disguised as a human, so of course I had to be on guard. Luckily, back in freshman year, my mum had bought me an apartment near campus. I'd planned to move in this semester and had mentioned it to her in passing. I just hadn't told her why, only mumbled something about needing better sleep. Who knew her mouth would be faster than a flying dagger? Jason walked me all the way downstairs. I waved him off. "This is fine. You can head back," he insisted, uncharacteristically stubborn. "It's okay. It's on my way." Yeah, right. What a terrible liar. Just say you want to walk me home. Why claim it's on your way? Reality hit me like a tornado hard. Jason rolled my suitcase to the door of 1502, then stood upright. His pale, flawless face seemed to glow softly in the dim hallway. He was tall, half a head taller than me. I couldn't help noticing. He reached out to ruffle my hair, his voice low and gentle. "Bye, Belle." The little deer in my chest had barely started running when Jason turned, pulled out a key, and slid it into the lock of the door. Next to mine, 1501. I yanked his bag strap like a pouncing leopard. What's going on? A flicker of something amusement, maybe crossed Jason's glassy eyes. Gone in an instant. The perfect hint of surprise graced his handsome face. "Didn't Aunt Anna tell you? I haven't been sleeping well lately. And Aunt Anna said she happened to have a spare apartment off campus, so she offered it to me." "Happened to?" "I was there when she bought this place on paper. There was only one apartment, mine, 1502. How exactly did one happen to have a spare? And right next door to me, no less? Huh. So that's what this was. She hadn't just given my address to her chosen son-in-law. She'd basically bought him a place next door to lock him in. No wonder they say Northeast mothers-in-law are the boldest. I swallowed the dragon roaring in my chest and silently recited, "Isabel, don't take it out on the innocent. Don't vent on poor Jason." After a long struggle, I forced out a smile uglier than tears. "Yeah, everyone's got sleep problems these days, huh?" Jason smiled faintly. He moved in across from me so quietly that after 2 busy days of unpacking, I completely forgot about it. Then, one morning, with my hair a tangled mess after 2 days unwashed, wearing a knee-length lamb fleece robe with floppy ears and 2 giant trash bags in hand, I shuffled out of the elevator, half asleep, only to lock eyes with Jason, radiant in a white tracksuit. I calmly wiped the tears from my sleepy eyes. Morning. Jason instantly gave up on getting into the elevator and fell into step beside me. "Just got up?" "Yeah, taking out the trash." "Had breakfast yet?" I yawned. "Not yet." "Then let's go together." I stopped and looked at his slightly sweaty forehead. Go change first. I'm not going out with an icicle. Seriously, in this kind of freezing weather, and after a morning run, he'd turn into a popsicle if he kept that up. Jason laughed, the headband on his forehead adding a boyish edge. My mood, without warning, brightened with the curve of his smile. He ruffled my hair. Wait for me. I stood there, waiting, accidentally catching my reflection in the glass. The one who needed a change of clothes was probably me. I could still feel the lingering warmth of his touch in my hair. Yeah, I should at least wash it. Jason came down quickly, wearing a long black coat that made his face look even more refined and cool. Let's go to that crab roast soup bun place by the gate, I said. The broth is amazing. I've been craving it all winter break. My mouth nearly watered mid-sentence. Jason turned his head slightly toward me, his expression soft. Sure. As I stepped on my own shadow, I thought to myself, so this is what Jason's like? Gentle, patient, warm but perfectly measured. Pity I'd spent all of freshman year buried in books and never got curious about him. I was just about to glance at him when I froze at the sight of our shadows on the ground. In the shadow, Jason had reached out and tugged on the two oversized cat ears on my hood. I swallowed hard and slowly turned my head at half speed. His hand was already back at his side, but that faintly lingering gaze hadn't yet been withdrawn. The sunlight caught his amber eyes, glinting gold, softening his cool, distant face with a touch of spring warmth. I quietly made a note in my heart. Turns out Jason likes cats. That's unexpectedly adorable. The steaming crab buns arrived, making my fingers itch to dig in. I was just about to grab the chopsticks when Jason caught my hand. Ignoring my desperate glances toward the food, he calmly took out a packet of wet wipes and opened it. Starting from my palm, he wiped carefully all the way to my fingertips, his voice low and unhurried. You touched the trash. It's dirty. Another note in my head, clean freak. His lashes lowered, the concentration and gentleness in his expression strangely captivating. When he looked up and saw my dazed face, his gaze deepened. He ruffled my hair, pressed a pair of chopsticks into my palm. Eat. I took a distracted bite of the bun. Good? Jason asked. Good. Total lie. How could I taste anything after that hand-wiping thing? I was still lost in thought when a hesitant female voice called, Belle? I turned around. Another girl's voice followed, louder. See! I told you it was Belle! Jason turned with me. There was a clatter of dishes, a startled gasp, and that same voice again, Belle. Are you and Jason really together? I raised an eyebrow. Jason? Her tone was oddly soft, but her emotions were anything but calm. The girl in front of us was pretty and well-dressed, but a large stain of vinegar marred her yellow coat, making her look disheveled. I studied her quietly for a few seconds. She averted her gaze, fingers clutching her hem. I slipped my arm through Jason's and smiled sweetly. Yeah, hasn't the whole school been talking about it? That confession wall thing was quite the scandal. Jessica, you didn't know? Her face went pale inch by inch with my words, trembling visibly when she heard confession wall. Jason's body stiffened almost imperceptibly before he clasped my hand in his. His voice was polite but distant. Nice to meet you. I'm Belle's boyfriend. His long fingers wrapped tightly around mine, close enough to feel inseparable. I reflexively tried to pull back, but he held on tighter. These are my roommates, I said, introducing them one by one. Cindy, Kristen, and Jessica. Jason nodded in greeting. Cindy and Kristen came up to chat briefly, polite but perfunctory, and the conversation quickly fizzled. I'd spent most of freshman year holed up in the library, gone from dawn till dusk, so I wasn't exactly close to my roommates. I glanced again at Jessica, still standing there, but didn't think she'd go so far as to pull something like that. I nudged Jason's palm with my knuckle. Let's go. When we said goodbye to Cindy and Kristen, they both smiled, but there was unmistakable shock in their eyes. I was puzzled but kept a straight face. Jason stood, wrapped my scarf around my neck, and naturally covered my hand with his, our fingers intertwined, as if it was something we'd done countless times before. I lowered my eyes to hide the flutter in my chest, walking out with him. Inside, Jessica's face had gone ghostly pale. Outside, the sun was bright, wild geese crossing the sky. 12 meters down the street, I looked down at my fluffy lamb fleece pajamas and suddenly burst out laughing. The more I laughed, the harder it became to stop. "What's so funny?" Jason asked. Through my tears, I looked at his blurry face. They thought, remembering Cindy and Kristen's expressions, I cracked up all over again. I laughed for a solid 3 minutes. Jason just stood quietly beside me, his face calm and kind, no trace of impatience. When I finally caught my breath, still half gasping, I said, "They think we're living together." Jason's expression finally shifted. His features, always sharp and commanding, had been softened lately by his constant smiles. Now the smile faded, and that innate arrogance returned to his every line. His lips curved slightly, a magnetic pressure in his voice. "Oh? Is that so?" A strange thought flashed through my mind. So this is the real Jason. Damn, even more irresistible. I reflexively tried to move my fingers, only to realize our left hands were still entwined. Jason noticed too. He withdrew slowly, face calm again. "That girl just now, she's the one who posted on the confession wall, right?" His question snapped my thoughts back. "Most likely. Do you want me to do something about it?" That gentle, considerate Jason was back again. I shook my head. "No, I'm not doing anything." Jason hummed softly, saying nothing more. But I couldn't help asking, "Aren't you curious why?" He smiled. "You have your reasons for everything you do. I just have to support you, no matter what it is." A strange impulse surged up inside me. I blurted out the words. Jason didn't hesitate, no matter what. After testing him a few times, I was almost certain the confession wall incident had been Jessica's doing and that she liked Jason. But whatever her reasons, I didn't care. If she'd just lost her way, she'd come back. If she kept going, karma would handle her. I wasn't wasting my time or energy on people or things that didn't matter. There were far too many beautiful, worthwhile things waiting to be chased and discovered. But having someone who'd stand unconditionally behind you, that was a joy beyond words. Our shadows stretched long, overlapping and separating as we walked. Something in my heart began to sprout. Suddenly, I grabbed Jason's hand and ran like crazy. The north wind cut across our faces, whistling past our ears, but our chests burned hot and wild, fire spreading through our veins. Later, I realized that moment between us was the start of something tender. Not yet love, but dangerously close. The next day, classes officially began. Jason and I were both swamped with coursework, but unlike before, I no longer made morning and night pilgrimages to the library. Instead, Jason and I each took a corner of my living room table to study. We rarely talked, only the scratching of pens, the turning of pages. The tapping of keys filled the quiet air, connecting us across the diagonal. It all started when I once asked Jason about an economic model. After explaining, he casually sat down and opened his own book. That became our routine. My eyes grew sore from reading, and when I looked up, I met a pair of focused eyes. Jason leaned against the table, quietly watching me. I didn't know how long he'd been staring. Light shimmered faintly in his pale eyes. "Hungry?" he asked. I touched my stomach. A little. "Pasta?" I assumed he meant delivery and answered offhandedly. "Sure." Jason stood up, left the apartment, and a minute later came back with a bag. That fast had he run across the hall. I raised an eyebrow as he walked straight into the kitchen. I leaned on the doorway, watching him drain noodles and dice tomatoes with practiced ease. His hands were long and beautiful. He even made wielding a spatula look elegant. "You can cook?" "Yeah. You know my mom's cooking. When she's not around. I make my own sometimes." My curiosity kicked in. Why don't I help? For the first time, Jason didn't meet my eyes with his usual gentle smile. His lips pressed together, hesitant. I squeezed in beside him anyway, full of confidence. Relax. I didn't inherit my mom's clumsy hands. She's the one who can't. 5 minutes later, I dropped the scorched spatula, the mushy pasta, and the tomatoes that had practically disintegrated into thin air, covered my face, and bolted out of the kitchen. Sorry for interrupting. God, that was humiliating. Thinking back to all that cocky talk I'd spouted earlier made me want to buy a one-way ticket off the planet. I sat at the table pretending to read, though my eyes kept darting toward the figure still busy in the kitchen. 5 minutes later, a bowl of tomato pasta was placed in front of me, steaming and glossy. The ingredients were basic. Hope it's edible. I glanced at the blackened mess in his bowl across from me. Maybe you shouldn't eat that, I said guiltily. My earlier help had turned what should have been 2 portions into 1. It's fine. I like my food a little overcooked. Jason smiled. Sure. If by overcooked you mean cooked in hellfire, bro. Ignoring my hesitation, Jason picked up a forkful and shoved it into his mouth. The sight was like watching a handsome guy eat dirt. Constipated for 2 weeks kind of pain. Horrifying. I couldn't bear to watch guilt washing over me. Jason finished the inedible thing with a straight face, then looked up. Not bad. I clutched my chest, probably my conscience aching. Why aren't you eating? It'll get cold. I silently swore to myself, Jason. From now on, you're my ride or die. If I've got 1 bite left, you'll get half. Fighting back guilt, I forced down most of my pasta with teary eyes. The vow I'd just made suddenly echoed in my mind. I set my bowl down. Jason raised an eyebrow. What's wrong? I had no idea if my conscience or my brain had short-circuited, but I picked up a forkful of noodles and offered it to his lips. By the time I realized what I was doing and tried to pull back, Jason had already leaned in. He ate the noodles straight from my hand. His long lashes cast shadows over his face, his pale eyes glimmering like spring water. He was so beautiful my heart stopped for a beat. The ancients were right, beauty under lamplight is fatal. Jason sat back, the tip of his tongue flicking out to lick his lower lip, eyes still bright. I think I prefer Belle's cooking. My heart jumped. I buried my face in my bowl and hurried to finish what was left. God help me. This man could flirt without saying a word. Jason didn't speak again. When I was done, he moved to take my bowl. Up close, I noticed for the first time he had 2 faint dimples barely there, but real. I lowered my gaze. His shadow bent crookedly across the table. It looked broken in 2. In that shadow, his ear seemed to brush against my lips, soft, electric, intimate. The air felt charged. Something in my mind snapped. I grabbed his hand. He looked up, startled. I leaned in and kissed him. Our hearts pounded wildly. The kiss was fleeting, nothing deep. I pressed a hand to my racing heart, jumped off the chair, and fled to my room like my life depended on it. From that night on, I started avoiding Jason. Who could blame me? I'd literally lost my mind and kissed him. Covering my face, I groaned. Jason probably didn't want to see me either. Why else would he start leaving earlier and coming home later than usual? 2 neighbors living door to door hadn't accidentally run into each other for half a month. Once the once envied campus couple suddenly became distant, breakup rumors spread through T University like wildfire. The next time I saw Jason was 2 weeks later, in a general elective class. I'd stayed up too late reading the night before and arrived just as class was starting. Scanning the front rows, I found only 1 empty seat, the far right of the 3rd row from the back. And in that same glance, I spotted Jason sitting further back. No matter where he was, he always stood out. Relief washed over me. At least that seat wasn't directly beside him, different row, different column. But fate, apparently, had a sense of humor. When I climbed up the steps toward the back, the dark-browed guy sitting next to Jason suddenly grabbed his book and darted to the empty seat I'd seen earlier. As he brushed past, he even gave me a smug eyebrow raise. Jason sat quietly, sunlight spilling over him, haloing him like some untouchable deity. His eyes stayed on me, calm and steady, making my heartbeat all the more chaotic. I turned sharply and stood in front of the guy. "Go back." He blinked. "What for, sis-in-law?" I said go back. I cut him off. The professor walked in just then. Seeing my expression clear as day that I wouldn't move till he did, he slunk back to his seat, defeated. I barely heard a word of the lecture. Seeing Jason again unleashed everything I'd been holding in like a flood. I missed him so much. No one to share breakfast with these past 2 weeks. The long study table where we used to sit together now had only me. Memories of Jason replayed in my mind one after another. Somehow, without me realizing, he'd woven himself into every part of my life. And now that he was gone, it felt like someone had carved out a piece of my flesh, aching and raw. So that's what it was. I liked him. I hadn't even noticed the professor leaving until a chorus of whistles and laughter filled the room. Following everyone's gaze, I saw a girl standing in the open space before Jason's row. Her fitted black coat framed her slim figure, her makeup flawless and deliberate. Jessica. Gone was the pale, shaken girl from before. Her cheeks now glowed pink, radiant and confident. Her eyes skimmed over me, landing on Jason. "Jason," she said softly. "I was sitting right behind you. Why aren't you and Belle together?" Jason lounged back, lazy as ever, not even glancing her way as if she were air. The whole class watched, embarrassed at being ignored so bluntly. Jessica's tone sharpened. "People are saying you and Belle broke up. Is it true? Because if it is..." She bit her lip. "Do I have a chance?" My hand clenched on the desk. Jason finally looked up at her, his face calm, colder than I'd ever seen it, with a hint of anger. "No." Jessica froze. Jason stood, towering over her. "I said you don't have a chance." Then he turned his gaze on me. I met his eyes instinctively. Light caught his lashes, softening his pale irises, until they seemed to reflect only me. "She's just mad at me," he said. "I'm coaxing her." His voice wasn't loud, but every word carried through the classroom, dripping with quiet intimacy. Laughter and cheers erupted louder than before. Jessica's face flushed crimson. She spun around and fled the room. As the crowd dispersed, Jason walked toward me. With the light behind him, his sharp features looked gentler. His gaze never left mine. "Belle, I've been busy these days, working on a project," he said. The shadows under his eyes proved it. He looked exhausted. His voice dropped lower. "I kind of miss your desk." Seeing his expression soften again, I couldn't help smiling. His slightly curled fingers finally relaxed as he reached out, ruffled my hair, and picked up my backpack, slinging it over his shoulder. "Let's go home." I stared at his tall silhouette, a little dazed. And suddenly, it all made sense. He was like the moon in the clouds, untouchable, yet he gave all his warmth to me. Gentle, indulgent. The walk from campus to my place wasn't long, but not short either. If we took the side path, it was under 20 minutes. Jason kept his pace slow, unhurried, hands in his pockets, exuding a clean, quiet coolness. Yet every time he looked at me, those glass-colored eyes softened with warmth. I remembered something from years ago. My mom, for once serious, yet smiling as she said, "Silly girl. When you really like someone, the only thing you'll think is, 'I want to be with him.'" No more hesitation. Turns out she was right. I bit my lip, about to say something, when my phone rang. Of course it was Mom. "Belle, you're free at noon, right? Remember that sofa I ordered last month? It's gorgeous. It should be delivered soon. I gave them your number. Make sure you sign for it." Before I could get a word in, she hung up. I barely had time to blink before another call came in. "Miss Belle?" The voice on the other end sounded tentative. I sighed. "Yes, speaking." The voice continued. "Your furniture's downstairs. Can you come sign for it?" "Sure, thank you. I'll be right there. Say what you will about my mum. Her taste was flawless. By the time the movers carried out the old sofa and set the new one in place, it was already 1:30. I checked my watch, frustrated. I had class at 2, no time for lunch. Jason, who'd been helping the movers earlier, had vanished at some point. I grabbed a bottle of milk and was about to head out when he stepped through the door. "Where did you go?" "To buy something." He had class that afternoon too, so I didn't press further. We hurried toward the academic building together. Our classes were in different halls, and just as we split at the lab building, he called out to me, pulling something warm and steaming from his coat pocket and placing it in my hand. It was a rice ball. "Eat a little before class. An empty stomach is bad for you." The warmth from the rice ball spread from my fingertips all the way to my heart, leaving it softly burning. Mondays were always packed, class after class. I was also working on a paper for an SCI journal, so after grabbing a quick bite at the cafeteria, I went straight home and sat at the long table. When I finally finished the first draft, I let out a long breath. It wasn't until I finally relaxed that I thought of Jason. The afternoon had been chaos, and I hadn't really talked to him, let alone confessed anything. Feeling a little down, I went to pour myself some water, only to meet a pair of beady black eyes staring back at me. A car's headlights flashed outside, and before I could even scream, I bolted out the door like a refugee. Jason opened his door, probably before he'd even realized it was me, and I had already zipped past him, breathless. "Close the door. Quick, close it." He blinked, but did as I said, then turned to see me standing there, panic written all over my face. I spoke fast and broken. Moving the sofa, I left the door open, Mouse got in. Jason's eyes curved with laughter, a glimmer of amusement in his gaze. My face burned. What could I do? Mice were my ultimate nightmare. "It's late. Doubt anyone's coming tonight. You can stay here for now. I'll call pest control in the morning." That's when I realized he was wearing pajamas. Black silk ones. The smooth fabric made his neck look pale as jade, and the faint outline of his spine was dangerously distracting. I swallowed hard. Too hot. I quickly averted my eyes. "Okay. Should I grab you some clothes?" he asked. I stopped him. "Don't." He chuckled, his Adam's apple moving slightly as he laughed. "All right then. You can wear my pajamas." As I showered, I thought to myself this was way too embarrassing. Definitely not the time for any emotional talk. Better to wait. A knock came at the bathroom door. Jason's voice sounded through. "I left pajamas in the basket outside. Don't forget to grab them." "Okay," I called back. When I reached for the clothes, something felt off. I looked closer. On top of the pajamas sat a pack of disposable underwear. Women's. Kill me now. My ears burned bright red, and even after standing in the steam for ages, the heat wouldn't fade. His pajamas drowned me so long I had to roll the pant legs 4 or 5 times, and they still brushed my ankles. I opened the bathroom door, clutching the waistband, ready to sprint to the guest room. Jason's voice stopped me a few steps away. "I warmed some milk for you. Drink it before bed." I didn't turn around. "No need. I'm going to sleep." Like hell I'd let him see me blushing like a tomato and dressed like a homeless stray. Right before the door shut, I thought I heard a soft laugh outside, carried away by the night wind. The guest room had clearly never been slept in, but somehow, lying in that bed, I felt like Jason was right beside me. Dangerous thought. I pulled the blanket over my head. I couldn't stop wondering what his face looked like when he bought those women's underwear. Was he as calm as always? My mind ran wild with ridiculous thoughts, until I finally drifted off past midnight. When I woke, it was almost 11. I hadn't slept this late in years. Jason stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, sunlight spilling over him, his black hair glowing softly. It made me want to reach out and touch it. "Awake?" He turned at the sound, his expression gentle, his eyes still carrying that morning light. For a moment, the words almost slipped out. "Jason, let's be together." He started toward the kitchen. "I kept some porridge warm. Have a little first." "Jason," I called. "Hmm?" He turned, as patient as ever. No matter when I spoke to him, He always stopped what he was doing to look at me. Focused and kind. Such a good man. Maybe just wait a little longer. I told myself that and smiled. It's nothing. I'm just hungry. And I was. I downed 3 bowls of porridge. The exterminator came this morning and caught the mouse, he said. I also called a cleaning lady to disinfect the place. She's still there now. Good. I nodded. Jason hesitated, then came back holding a small cage. Looks like it was someone's pet. I looked down and locked eyes again with those tiny black beads. I nearly dropped my bowl. Huh? Jason plucked a cherry from the fruit plate and dropped it in the cage. The little thing grabbed it with 2 stubby paws and started nibbling away. It's a guinea pig, a kind of pet rodent. In daylight, I finally got a good look. No wonder it scared me last night. But up close, it was actually kind of cute. Brown and white fur, round and clean, clearly well taken care of. It must have escaped from someone's apartment, and since our door had been wide open during the sofa move, it snuck right in. Jason and I exchanged a glance, and both couldn't help laughing. Then came a knock at the door. Jason opened it. Through the doorway, I saw 2 middle-aged women talking to him. He handed them money, and in return, each handed him a box of cherries before leaving. The cleaning's done, I asked with my mouth full, popping another cherry in. Jason stepped closer. His tall frame cast a shadow over me, filling the space with quiet intensity. His eyes flickered before he finally said, "Yeah." I wiped my hands with a napkin and stood. "Then I'll head back." But Jason didn't move. Aside instead. He took a step forward. So close we were almost touching. My heartbeat fluttered like a trapped bird. "You're in my way." His fingertips brushed my lips lightly and came away stained red. Damn it. I'd forgotten to wipe my mouth. I lifted a hand, but Jason's low, husky voice stopped me. "Can you not go?" My hand froze, mid-air. His cool palm covered it, his fingers sliding slowly through mine. Deliberate, giving me every chance to pull away, but I didn't. Our hands pressed together, skin to skin. Stay. Master bedroom or guest room, your choice. His ears were a little red, but his eyes were dark and deep, full of something unspoken. I said I'd respect whatever you do, but I think I lied. When you try to avoid me, I can't stand it. When you want to leave, I don't want to let you. His voice lowered, but the light in his eyes only grew brighter. I met that light, my voice soft but steady. Okay. I had never seen Jason so open with his emotions. His gaze pinned me with an almost fierce intensity, pride and tenderness tangled together in those pale eyes. Then they reddened slightly. He pulled me into his arms, resting his chin on my shoulder, his voice low and sticky, almost pleading. "Then give me a title, okay?" My gaze happened to fall out the window. Leaves swirled up into the air, carried by the wind. My voice came out soft, but firm. "Okay. Boyfriend." The guinea pig's owner turned out to be desperate. Flyers titled "Missing Pig" were plastered all over the elevator. When Jason and I brought it back, the man thanked us over and over. "No, I should be thanking you," I said. Jason's smile was full of hidden meaning. That harmless little mouse brought me a wildcat. I blushed furiously and pinched his hand hard. He didn't even flinch, just wrapped his fingers around mine. Judging by the man's expression as he shut the door, he probably wanted to beat the 2 of us for showing up early in the morning, just to flaunt our love. I rubbed my nose, feeling wrongfully accused. Jason was definitely acting different. He seemed intent on letting the entire world know I was his girlfriend. That very afternoon, I found myself at his dorm gathering. Walking into the private room, I froze at the sight of 19 guys staring back at me. Something felt off. They all grinned, flashing white teeth. "Hey, sis-in-law. I'm Aaron from 216 next door." "Sis-in-law, I'm Kyle from 215. So this was what a dorm gathering meant. Guess my imagination was too small. "Sis-in-law, I'm Jason's roommate, Carlos." The last one, thick brows, bright eyes, looked familiar. Carlos poured me a drink with a grin. Told you so! Quarrel at the head of the bed, make up at the foot. You two didn't last 2 weeks apart. Pay up, boys! He turned and hollered, cough it up! In seconds, 19 crisp bills landed in his hand. He stuffed them into his pocket, beaming. See, sis-in-law? Told you I know Jason best. The way he dotes on you. How could he last half a month without you? I suddenly remembered he was the guy who'd stolen my seat in class that day. Apparently grateful that I'd brought him fortune, he couldn't stop talking. Sis-in-law, you don't know when that confession wall rumor started. Jason told us to spread the word that he was the one chasing you. Another roommate jumped in. Man, don't remind me. We were like a bunch of gossiping aunties. He'd tell everyone who'd listen it was mortifying. I glanced sideways at Jason, surprised. So that's what he meant by protecting my reputation? For a girl he barely knew, he'd gone that far? Carlos clearly wasn't done. Oh, that's nothing. During course selection last semester, Jason went around asking which electives you were taking. My girlfriend helped me find out your schedule. Once he had it, he was so excited he practically checked every class you'd picked. Another guy jumped in, animated. And get this, by pure coincidence or fate or whatever, Jason had already taken nearly all the same electives last year. Only the psych class was left. And he signed up for it right away. Didn't even hesitate. We were all saying he'd come back from winter break, ready to go all in, and boom, he actually got you. The whole group started chanting, teasing him. Yeah, Jason, tell us how it happened. Must have been killing you. I gave Jason a half smile. He sat cold and distant, expression unreadable. Well, serves him right. The dinner dragged on until past midnight. As soon as we got home, I pushed Jason against the door, poking his chest. Admit it, you've liked me for a long time, haven't you? Jason lowered his gaze, something dark, flickering in his eyes. Yes. His blunt honesty caught me off guard. I stammered, since when? His eyes deepened, and before I could process what was happening, he turned us around, pressing me firmly against the wall. His face lowered without warning, red lips filling my vision. The chill of the wall behind me clashed with the heat of his body in front, and it felt like I was burning and freezing all at once. He kissed me, until I melted into his arms without ever giving me an answer. But maybe it didn't matter. In the frozen winter of the North, I'd met someone blazing bright and warm. And that person, at this very moment, was holding me close.